Welcome to episode 85 of the 3M Fear podcast. On the morning of May 16, 2008, at 6:01 a.m., a 35-year-old housekeeper, Bharti Mandal, arrived for a usual shift at the Talwar house. She was supposed to be let in by Hemraj Banjade, the family's domestic live-in help. But on that day, he didn't answer the door. She tried to open the outer gate herself, but it was locked. The entrance to the apartment was a little complicated because there was a three-step process to get into the house. The first door was a stiff gate that needed a strong push to open. The second was a mesh grill door, which was usually locked. And the third door was the actual apartment door. This was a wooden door that was self-locking, which meant if you wanted to get inside the house, you needed a key from the outside. Only someone from inside the house can open this door. Now Hemraj had a separate entrance from his room, so he could easily go in and out. Bharti waited at the outer gate, knocking and ringing the bell. After a few minutes, Nupur Talwar came out and explained that Hemraj must have gone out somewhere because he was the only one who could open the door for her. Now Bharti was in a hurry. This was not the only house that she worked in. She had to get to other houses. She asked Nupur to just go and throw the keys down from the balcony. Now here's the strange thing. Instead of throwing the keys, Nupur went inside and tried calling Hemraj. The first time she called, the phone was answered but quickly hung up. When she tried again, the call went straight to voicemail, which meant someone switched off the phone. Nupur went back outside to Bharti and said, "Can you try to open the door again? It's usually not locked." Now Bharti was getting frustrated. She asked Nupur just go and throw the keys from the balcony. After some to and fro, Nupur finally agreed. She went inside to get the keys, but for Bharti to get them, she had to walk around to the other side of the apartment where the balcony was, take the keys after Nupur had thrown them, and come back walking all the way to the door. After getting the keys, Bharti walked all the way back around to the front gate. Before unlocking anything, she decided to just try and push the door again. And this time, the door opened. Remember, she had not used the key yet. The middle gate was not locked. It was just latched. Bharti wasn't sure if the gate was locked before or not, or maybe someone did it while she went to get the keys. But for now, both the gates were open. At this time, Rajesh, Nupur's husband, woke up and went into the living room. He noticed a whiskey bottle on the dining table, which was strange because he wasn't drinking it. He called out to Nupur and asked to check on Arushi, their daughter. When they went to Arushi's room, they found that her door was unlocked, which was unusual because all the doors in the house were supposed to be self-locking. When they entered the room, they discovered Arushi lying on a bed, dead. Her throat had been slashed deeply and she had a head injury. There was blood all around her and she had been covered with a white blanket. Her school bag was placed on top of her head and some stuffed animals were arranged around her bed. There was no blood on the toys or the school bag, meaning the killer had placed them after committing the murder. There was blood on the pillow, bed, walls, floor, and even on the outside of the bedroom door, which meant the door had been open during the attack. This case, which initially people thought was a simple murder case, would turn into one that would shake the nation. This is the story of the Noida double murders, also known as the Arushi Talwar case. Hello and welcome to the 3 AM Fear podcast. I'm Nikita Ferrao, mystery and thriller author.
On this podcast, I talk about real crimes and real people. Due to the graphic nature of some of this content, listener discretion is advised. You can find the episode show notes on my website 3amfear.com. Let's get started.
This is part 1 of the Aarushi Talwar case because the case was so big I couldn't fit it into one episode. Let's get started. The Aarushi Talwar case would become one of the most famous and confusing murder investigations in India. The case is often compared to the John Benet Ramsey case from the US because there is a lot of confusion, mistakes in the investigation, and a lot of case related issues which is similar. If you want me to do the John Benet Ramsey case, then let me know in the comments. Aarushi Talwar was a 13-year-old girl, almost 14, who lived with her parents, Rajesh and Nupur Talwar. They were both dentists and had their own dental clinic. Aarushi was a sweet and popular girl at school, and she had a close and open relationship with her parents. She was their only child and was the result of many years of trying to have a baby, as her parents had gone through 5 years of IVF before she was born. So you can imagine how special she was to her parents. She was a student at the Delhi Public School and lived in Noida's Sector 25 with her parents at the time of her death. Doctors Rajesh and Nupur Talwar practiced at a clinic in Sector 27 as well as at the Fortis Hospital, where the former headed the dental department. Anita and Praful Durrani were close friends with the Talwars, and they shared the Noida clinic with the couple. Rajesh and Anita took morning shifts, that is from 9 am to noon, while Praful and Nupur took evening shifts, that is from 5 pm to 7 pm. While the couple were busy with their work, Hemraj, who was the Talwar family's live-in domestic help and cook, helped the family and Aarushi. He belonged to the Darapani village in Nepal. Hemraj, who was 45 years old, was originally from Nepal. He worked in the house and took care of the home while the Talwars were busy with their jobs. The family was well off as the couple were both dentists. They had a busy life and needed help at home, and so they hired Hemraj to help them out. Not much is known about Hemraj, but it is clear that he was a dedicated worker. He sent money back to his wife and children in Nepal, and he had been working for the Talwars for some time. The family also had another housekeeper who came once a week to help with the cleaning, but Hemraj was the main person. However, everything changed on May 16, 2008, when Aarushi and Hemraj were found murdered in the Talwar family's apartment. On May 15, 2008, Nupur Talwar went to work at the clinic from 9 am to 1 pm. Afterward, she picked up her daughter Aarushi from school at 1:30 pm and then went back home. They had lunch together along with Nupur's sister-in-law, Vandana. Later, Nupur would go to work at the Fortis Hospital from 4 pm to 7 pm and would return home around 7:30 pm. Rajesh Talwar taught at the ITS Dental College from 8:45 to 3:30 pm and then attended patients at the clinic until 8:30 pm. His driver Umesh Sharma dropped him home around 9:30 pm. Umesh parked his car and then came into the apartment to hand over Rajesh's bag and the car keys to Hemraj. After that, no one outside the family saw Aarushi or Hemraj alive. According to the Talwars, after Rajesh returned home, Hemraj had prepared dinner for the family. They ate together, and even though Aarushi's 14th birthday was still a few days away, they decided to give her an early birthday present, a Sony digital camera that they had just received in mail. Aarushi was thrilled, and she spent the evening taking photos. The last photo that she took was at 10:10 pm, which was a selfie. Some of the earlier photos were said to be deleted, but it is believed that Aarushi just didn't like the photos and so she deleted them. At around 11 pm, everyone went to their separate bedrooms to relax. Now, because Rajesh and Nupur don't usually get time for themselves because they work long hours, they decided that on that day they would take up some personal time. Arushi also stayed up late most nights talking to her friends, usually around 12:30 to 1 am. At around 11:05 pm, Rajesh asked Nupur to turn on the internet router which was in Arushi's room. The doors in their apartment were self-locking, so Nupur needed a key to get into Arushi's room. When she went in, Arushi was lying in her bed reading Chetan Bhagat's The Three Mistakes of My Life. Nupur turned the router on and said goodnight and went back to her room. At the same time, Rajesh received a call on the home phone number from a US number, which he answered. He then worked on his emails, finishing his last email at 11:53 pm. The internet was still being used until around 12:08 am. This was the last known activity before the tragedy. According to post-mortem reports, it is said that Arushi and Hemraj were killed anywhere between 12 am and 1 am. At the same time, Arushi's friend Anmol tried to reach her. He texted her, he called her mobile number, he even tried the home phone number, but there was no response. Arushi's phone had been inactive since 9:10 pm. This was shocking because usually Arushi would be up late night, she would be chatting, she would be texting. So when Anmol called and there was no answer, he had no idea why. It is said that when Anmol's call went unanswered, he sent her a text message at around 12:30 am. The message was never received by her phone as it had already been shut off. The same phone would later be found on a dirt track near Noida's Sardapur area by a maid, and the memory was wiped clean. The Talwars would go on to say that Arushi would sometimes turn off the ringer on the landline late at night. Maybe she just didn't want it, but on that day they were not sure. To understand the story, first let's understand how the Talwar apartment looked like. The apartment was a 1300 square feet apartment. It had 3 bedrooms, which included the servants' room, a drawing dining room, and a servants' quarter where Hemraj slept. Rajesh and Nupur Talwar slept in the master bedroom, while Arushi slept in a room right next to them. Hemraj's room also had a separate entry, so he could go into the house outside the house from his bedroom. If you wanted to enter the Talwar's apartment, there were 3 doors that you had to go through. First was a grill gate, then came a middle mesh door, and then the innermost part was the wooden door. Now that wooden door was self-locking, which means only someone from inside can open it. If someone from outside wanted to open that door, then they had to have a key. Hemraj's room had 2 doors, one that opened inside the apartment and the other that opened outside the apartment. On 16 May 2008, as Bharti Mandal rang that doorbell, she expected Hemraj to open the door as he usually did. But when he didn't, Nupur came, and that's when she asked Nupur to open the door. Every day Hemraj would open the door for her, but on that day, he was not there. And as Nupur came and the conversation between Bharti and Nupur started, we know exactly what happened. As Bharti entered the apartment, she saw the Talwars crying. Rajesh was screaming and hysterical. He had just found his daughter's body. Nupur was in shock. She saw Bharti and immediately said, "Come, see this. Come to Arushi's room." But Bharti didn't want to enter. Nupur was in shock as she walked over to Arushi's body and pulled out the blanket. That's when Bharti saw the blood and realized that Arushi's throat had been slit. Nupur immediately started accusing Hemraj, saying, Look at what Hemraj had done." She blamed him for the murder. This situation was extremely uncomfortable for Bharti because she had no idea what to do. Should she help them? Should she stay? Should she go? She had other jobs. But at the same time, this crime scene was too scary for her. Imagine having to see such a traumatizing scene and then just go on with your work as if nothing happened. After Bharti left, the Talwars didn't call the police right away. Instead, they started calling their family and friends to come over. It was actually one of the neighbors who, after hearing about this crime from Bharti, contacted the police. The police arrived at 7:15 am, but by then there were already about 20-21 people inside the apartment. 15 in the living room, 5 to 6 in Rajesh and Nupur's bedroom. No one was in Arushi's room when the police came, but the scene was so disturbed that the police said that it had been completely contaminated. They tried to gather as much evidence as they could, but the fingerprints that they found were smudged and people were all over, people were touching everything, so it was difficult to know which fingerprints could have belonged to the killer and which belonged to the people who were already there. The police found no signs of forced entry or break-in, which was odd. Arushi's body had a blanket over it with a school bag, stuffed toys around. There was no blood on this bag or toys, which led investigators to believe that maybe this crime scene was staged. The items placed in a particular manner were meant to cover her face because maybe this person just didn't want to see Arushi's face. They sent Arushi's mattress, pillow, bed sheets, and clothing to a forensic lab for DNA testing. After that, they dusted the whiskey bottle that was found on the dining table, and the bottle did have some blood on it. They would later go on to say that the DNA found there belonged to both Arushi and Hemraj. As the police continued with their investigation, they realized something. Hemraj was missing. His quarters was empty. Rajesh was getting frustrated. He saw that Hemraj's dinner was still sitting on the table, which meant that he didn't have it. He felt like the police were wasting their time looking for fingerprints and evidence when it was all there. He insisted that they should be out there searching for Hemraj instead of going through all these procedures. In fact, he even offered them a bribe of 25,000 rupees to stop their investigation and go look for Hemraj. But the police did not accept the bribe. As Rajesh started to talk, they even somewhere believed that Hemraj might have been the culprit, and that's why the police would announce a reward of 20,000 rupees for any tips that would lead to his capture. The police's theory would go on something like this, that on the night before, when Nupur went into Arushi's room to turn on the internet router, she couldn't remember if she accidentally left the door slightly open. The police thought that Hemraj, after drinking some scotch, which was left outside, went into Arushi's room and he tried to assault her. When she tried to stop him, they believed that he killed her with a traditional Nepali knife, also called a kukri knife. The police started to look for Hemraj. They found his son-in-law nearby and handcuffed him. They beat him with a bamboo stick, but he had no information. When they could not get anything out of him, they sent a team to Nepal to find Hemraj, taking his son-in-law with them to see if he could help. Meanwhile, Arushi's body was sent in for autopsy. It is said that she died anywhere between midnight and 1 am, and the cause of death was a blood clot in her brain caused by blunt force trauma to her forehead. Her throat was slit after she died, and the slit was done with precision, which means someone who knew how to cut. And by cut, I don't just mean cut, I mean someone like a doctor, someone who knew how to precisely make a cut. This was possibly done using a surgical or a kukri knife. There was no evidence to suggest that she was raped, but it was said that her pants and her underwear had been removed, cleaned, and then put back on. This shocked everyone. The post-mortem exam was completed very quickly, that is, just within 4 hours. Arushi's body was returned to the Talwar's home by 1 pm and was placed on ice to slow down the decomposition because the autopsy had taken place in a very hot room. Now here, I don't understand why her body was sent back and then placed on ice, But that's what happened. By 4 pm, Arushi was cremated according to Hindu tradition with permission from the police, as they had all the evidence that they needed. It was said that the body had to be cremated within 24 hours, according to their tradition. After Arushi's body was taken for cremation, the Talwars hired 4 domestic workers to clean the entire apartment, including the crime scene. They scrubbed everything down, and the police gave them permission to do this. It didn't actually make sense to why the Talwars were so desperate to get everything cleaned up, because first of all, their daughter had just been murdered. They were taking her body for cremation. Their first goal should have been to find the culprit, and that is to keep the crime scene at least for some time until the police got enough evidence or at least something from the crime scene. But it looked as if they were desperate to get it cleaned out. Also, the way that they had all of the stuff removed, this is my opinion and my opinion only. When someone very close to you passes away, that too in such a horrific manner, I think the first thing would be it would be very difficult for you to get rid of their things. You would want to hold on to any piece that reminds you of them. Not that get 4 servants to just wipe everything out. This kind of made me question everything. I don't know what the Talwars were thinking at that time or what the police were thinking at that time, but the Talwars got everything in Arushi's room cleaned up. In the Talwar's defense, their compounder, Vikas Sethi, told the court that he had received permission to clean the house from the police. Now the workers had trouble getting rid of Arushi's mattress because it was too big. They decided to drag it up to the terrace, but the terrace door was locked. Instead of breaking the lock or asking the police for help, they took the mattress to a neighbor's terrace. Now this was connected to the Talwar's terrace, so they thought maybe they could push it or somehow drag it from one terrace to the other. The police would later find blood stains on the stairs leading to the terrace door and on the door itself. Now it's not sure if these bloodstains were there before or after Arushi's mattress was taken. Now the police did ask Rajesh to give them the keys, but he never did, and the police never asked him again. Once again, they seem to be least bothered because they just asked him once, "Can you give us the keys? We want to get into the terrace." And Rajesh said no, and the police said okay. This shows lack of proper action, which is why this is one of the biggest unsolved cases in India. The next day, on March 17th, more people came to the Talwar's apartment to pay their respects. Rajesh and Nupur Talwar went there because they had gone to the Ganga river to scatter Arushi's ashes. Dinesh, Rajesh's brother, was looking over the apartment. A retired police officer named K.K. Gautam, who had been invited by a colleague of Rajesh, came to the apartment. Gautam noticed the bloodstains leading to the terrace and tried to get onto the terrace, but it was locked. He called the police and insisted that they break the lock. The police finally agreed, and once they were on the terrace, they found bloody drag marks and a decomposing body. Due to extreme heat, the body was decomposing at a rapid pace. Dinesh immediately called Rajesh and Nupur and asked them to come home. Rajesh had to get right back, but Nupur stayed in the car with Arushi's ashes. Rajesh went up to the terrace to see the body. At first, he couldn't identify because the body was so decomposed. But one of Hemraj's friend was able to identify it as Hemraj. Now this also is something that rubbed me the wrong way because Hemraj had been with the family for several years, and yet Rajesh couldn't say whether it was Hemraj or not, but his friend did. Next to Hemraj's body, the police found blood on the wall along with a bloody handprint. The blood was confirmed to be Hemraj's, but no one could tell who the handprint belonged to. They also found a bloody shoe print on the terrace, which was a size 8 or 9. According to police reports, there was evidence that both bodies were moved around the apartment, It was initially said that Hemraj had been dragged to the terrace in a bedsheet. The terrace door was then locked, and the killers then re entered the house and drank the whiskey. Now, one thing to be noted is that the whiskey was not just kept out. There was a liquor cabinet, and this liquor cabinet was hidden. Only a few people knew how to find this liquor cabinet. And maybe that's why Rajesh initially thought that Hemraj did it, because not a lot of people knew how to get that liquor out, or even that there was a liquor cabinet in the house. After a long conversation, Rajesh and Nupur once again left to scatter Arushi's ashes while Hemraj's body was sent for autopsy. What was shocking was the way that the body was treated. Hemraj's body was dragged through the apartment in front of all the people, including media. The body was taken in for autopsy, and it was done in a very careless and very disrespectful way. Even after finding his body, the police did not let his son-in-law contact any of his family members for 9 whole days. Hemraj's autopsy revealed that he had been murdered around the same time as Arushi, that is between midnight and 1 a.m. on May 16, 2008. His cause of death was blunt force trauma to the back of his head, and his neck was slit afterward, just like Arushi. His body was dragged 20 feet across the terrace, which left a lot of marks on his arms. Afterward, his body was propped up against an air conditioning unit and covered with a grate, that is, pushed up to sit in front of an air conditioning unit and covered with a grate. Now, when Arushi's mattress had to be taken up, if only they had opened the door, maybe they would have found the body. The two terraces were connected by a small wall and mesh, so if someone had just looked through, they could have easily found his body. But the killers had covered the mesh with a bedsheet, so maybe it was not that visible, but they still could have found it. Experts revealed that the drag marks on the roof meant that his body was put in a bedsheet and dragged across the terrace, which meant Hemraj was killed somewhere else, his body was put into a bedsheet and then dragged up across the terrace. This caused even more confusion. Who could have killed both of them, left Arushi in her bedroom and Hemraj up there on the terrace? In June 2008, CBI had a UV light testing team, and this team said that Hemraj's bloodstains were not found anywhere else except the terrace. So unless the killer cleaned up the original murder spot, Hemraj might have just been killed on the terrace. Because of so many things happening to and fro, it is very difficult to keep track of when what happened. At first, everyone thought that Hemraj was killed somewhere else and then dragged up to the terrace. But in 2008, the team said Hemraj's bloodstains could not be found anywhere else unless the killer was so good that he cleaned up everything. According to the Talwar's lawyer, Pinaki Mishra, those who found Hemraj's body saw hair in his mouth, which could have possibly been that of a killer. But the police did not check this also. It is sad to say that his body was found 28 hours after Arushi's, and because it was very hot, his body had decomposed a lot. During Hemraj's autopsy, the doctors found no food in his system, which of course explains that Hemraj's food was there and it wasn't eaten. He only had 25 ml of liquid in him, while Arushi had food in her stomach because she had dinner with her family the night before. Until now, everyone, including the police, were thinking that Hemraj was the killer. But now that Hemraj's body was found, who was the killer? The police first looked at a man named Vishnu Sharma, who had worked as a domestic help for the Talwars for 10 years. Vishnu was also from Nepal. When he went on holidays, he found a replacement. When Vishnu went away, Hemraj filled in for him. But when he came back, the Talwars decided to keep Hemraj because they loved his work. This could have possibly made Vishnu very angry because he was now jobless. And that made Vishnu the first suspect. But later on, the police would find out that he was in Nepal at the time of the murders, so he couldn't have done it. This left them with a lot of other suspects.